Jadi sepertinya kita mulai saja.
Oke, terima kasih Mbak Raditya. Good morning everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Rahayu. Welcome panelists and participants, the third International Collaboration on Indigenous Religion Conference. The theme of this year is Access to Justice, a call for literacy on interrelated issues and collaborations of interrelated sectors. I'm Elsa Marlina, moderator of this panel. You are in the 11th panel, which the theme is about the state's policy on indigenous religion recognition, opportunity, or threats. Actually, we have three presenters here. The first presenter is supposed to be Mr. Hamid Istakori, but he is not yet in the room. So this he will present about the legal implication of Sorong District Regulation number 10 of 2017 concerning recognitions and protections of the Moi Indigenous Law Community in Sorong Regency towards the Moi Indigenous Law Community as legal subject. And the second presenter is Ms. Kristina Viri, which is attend in this room. Yep, Ms. Kristina Viri.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. She will present about legal implication of Sorong. She will present about the analysis of the prosecutors regulations number 5 of 2019 and its implication toward traditional beliefs community. And our last presenter is Ms. Affaf Mujahidah from UIN Professor Kiai Haji Saifuddin Zuhri, and she will present about online civil administrative service innovations as an instrument for social inclusion, the case study of penghayat kepercayaan di Yogyakarta Province. The presenter will present the material in 15 minutes, and I will give the clue if the time is up, and the questions answer sessions will be open after the presentation is finished. But if you have burning issues or other questions, you can before the presentation finished, you can write down your questions on the chat box. You can also stream this panel through Pusat Para Madinah YouTube channel. Before we start the panel, I'll look through the names of the panelists and also the participants and all Indonesians. Is it okay if you use Bahasa Indonesia from now? Okay. Yeah. Before we start the panel, I look through the names and the participant names also. So I think we can use Bahasa Indonesia from now.
Okay.
Oke, thank you. Terima kasih partisipan dan juga panelis. Dikarenakan panelis pertama belum hadir, maka saya persilakan kepada Mbak Kristina Viri untuk mempresentasikan papernya yang berkaitan dengan the analysis of the prosecutors regulation number 5 of 2019. Time is yours, Mbak Kristina Viri.
Thank you so much, Mbak Elsa. First of all, I would like to apologize because I cannot open the camera. It is because of the internet connection is not really good here. But now I will try to share my presentation. So, yeah. Okay. Good. Sorry, I cannot open the. Okay. Good morning, Bapak dan Ibu. I hope you are doing well during this pandemic situation. My name is Kristina Viri. I am the student of Magister of Law, Gajah Mada University, and now I'm working for one NGO. The name is Perhimpunan Jiwa Sehat. I am the advocacy officer who based in Yogyakarta. So now I would like to present my research related to the prosecutors regulation number 5 2019 It's related to the Bakor Pakem or Badan Koordinasi Penghayat Kepercayaan and its implication towards indigenous religion. First of all, I would like to introduce the background why I'm interested to doing this research. The first one is, as we know, the freedom of religion and belief is already guaranteed under Indonesian Constitution. And this guarantee is strengthened by the Constitutional Court decision number 97, 2016.
I'm sorry,
So,
Mbak Firly, maybe you can change your slides into the background slide.
Change my slide into
the background slide, because this is still in the previous slide.
Oh, in the previous slide. Oh, okay.
Yes.
I think because of connection, yeah. I already moved the slide. So this is my introduction slide. Not yet. Can
Nope.
you
Nope.
view my slide?
Yes, we can see your slide, but only in the face of the slide, in the beginning of the slide, your title slide.
Oh, how to wait? I will stop share.
Maybe you can share the PPT, Mbak, and I'll help to share screen it.
Oh, okay. Okay. I will share to
the chat box.
Chat box.
It's fine. Yeah. I already sent it. Okay, it's not here yet. Maybe it's still loading. Oh, okay, it's here. All right. Okay, is it?
Yes.
On now? Okay, cool.
Okay, so could you please help me go to the introduction slide? Okay.
Sure.
Thank you so much. So yeah, first of all, the background of this research is related to the guarantee of right to religion and belief under the Indonesian Constitution, and it's strengthened by the Constitutional Court decision in 2016. In practice, however, there are some regulations which restrain freedom of freedom of religion and belief, especially for the indigenous religion community. One of the regulation is about Prosecutors Regulation number 5, 2019. Why it become a problem? It will be a problem because if we can review the track record of Pakem or Bakor Pakem. I will explain it in the discussion. However, through this regulation, it mentioned that Bakor Pakem is still exists and getting stronger. So from this situation, I would like to answer two questions. The first one is, what are the implications of the Prosecutor's Office Regulation number 5, 2019 for the traditional belief community or indigenous religion community? And then the second one is, how does the analysis of this regulation related to the guarantee of right to belief? Second slide, please. Could you please move to the second slide? Okay, so this is the research method. So this is a qualitative normative legal research. It examines whether the existing law or regulation consistent with the court decision or not. So we will check together. Next slide, please. So the first section of this research, it's about the Prosecutors Regulation number 5, 2019. So if we check this regulation, there are some important changes. The first one is if we review compared to the previous regulation, if we see the second secretary of Bakor Pakem or Pakem, Tim Pakem, is changed, become in this regulation mentioned as Subdirector for Supervision of Community and Religious Belief and the Prevention of Religious Abuse and or Blasphemy. It's important to highlight because this directorate using the nomenclature related to the Undang-Undang PNPS or blasphemy law, which is very problematic to the indigenous religion community. The second one is through this regulation, FKUB is included in Bakor Pakem. So it indicates that Bakor Pakem is already exists, still exists and getting stronger because the member is there are other member. So the number 3 is this regulation mandated not only monitor the indigenous religion but also sect in religion. So, and it's still based on Undang-Undang PNPS or blasphemy law. It potentially become a problem because if we check the track record of Bakor Pakem is the coordination board or institution which monitor and also disbanded the indigenous community or the sect of religion community, which according to them do the blasphemy or do the blasphemy. From this table, we can see some decision of the Pakem, which make a disbanded or dissolution of some community or indigenous community and also religion community. So according to some research mentioned that this regulation is a contradict with the principle of freedom of religion and belief, which already guaranteed under the Indonesian Constitution. So the existence of Bakor Pakem is will be problematic. Could you please do the second slide, please? And previous next slide. Okay. So according to this situation, I would like to analyze this regulation using the Hans Kelsen theory or legislation theory, because this regulation is contradict with the constitutional court decision. With constitutional court decision. So I would like to answer the question: where is the position of the constitutional court decision in the Indonesian hierarchy of regulation? So I will use Hans Kelsen legislation hierarchy. So according to this theory, norms are organized in the hierarchy. So based on this theory, constitutional court decisions are equal to law. Therefore, the status of the court decision is above the regional regulation, minister or institution regulation. So in consequence, the institutional regulation should refer and consistent with the court decision. So if we see the contradict, of this regulation. So the regulation 2019 regulation should refer to, according to this theory, the prosecutor regulation should refer to the constitutional court decision, but it's not yet referred to this constitutional court decision. So it is therefore crucial to submit the petition to the Supreme Court to asking and test the legality, not only the prosecutor regulation of number 5 2019, but also Undang-Undang Kejaksaan or prosecutor regulation, because this undang-undang is give the authority to the Bakor Pakem. So that's why Bakor Pakem is still in Indonesia, and it potentially become a agency or a institution which violate the indigenous group, indigenous religion community. So the last slide, please. So based on this research, I have two conclusions. The first conclusion is the implication of the existence of the Prosecutor's Office Regulation number 5 2019 is the more institutions that are incorporated in Bakor Pakem, the stronger Bakor Pakem, even though historically this institution has become a perpetrators of the violence against the indigenous group, indigenous community. So the second one is this regulation is contradict with the guarantee of right for the indigenous religion is already mentioned in Indonesian Constitution and also Constitutional Court number 97 2016. So it's crucial to submit the petition to the Constitutional Court to check the validity of this regulation. So I think that's all of my presentation. Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you, Ms. Kristina Viri. It's very interesting to hear your presentation since we talk about you've talked about the hierarchy of the laws in Indonesia still contradict to each other, right? And also, yeah, it is still problematic issues in Indonesia when Indonesian government regulates or issued some regulations that not include the other or previous regulation as considerations is still be burden for the implementations. Thank you, Ms. Kristina Viri. And for the next presenter in this panel, Ms. Affaf Mujahidah, you are the next presenter.
Good morning, Bu Elsa.
Yeah, hello, Mbak Affaf Mujahidah. You can present your yes, clear enough. You can present your paper with bahasa or English. So the time is yours, Ms. Affaf Mujahidah.
Thank you. Okay, wait. I already sent my. I'm sending my PowerPoint in the chat box. So if I can share it by myself, then someone can take it over. Okay, I try to present my paper now.
Please, committee, could you please to share screen the Ms. Affaf Mujahidah PPT?
Sure. Just a moment, please. So, is it on? Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Maya. Okay. So our research is talk about online civil administrative service innovation that was issued by Ministry of Internal Affairs, and how this regulation or this innovation affect the process of recognition toward indigenous people. Maybe next slide, Maya. Yeah. Okay. kepercayaan was widely known that it was legalized through the enactment of Constitutional Court Decision number 797 2016 after the long process of judicial review. And then the of Internal Affairs Circular Letter number 471.14. Okay, next slide, Maya. Okay, however, with those two regulations that was regulated and issued by the government, penghayat kepercayaan still face the obstacles during the registration process to change their identity card into the special identity card that was provided by the government. Among those obstacles was negative stigma and discrimination, like in the case a penghayat kepercayaan who want to change the identity card was questioned by the Dukcapil officer about the reason and what they are before penghayat kepercayaan. I mean, what religion they affiliated before they decide to be a penghayat kepercayaan. Okay, the next slide. However, there is a good news before cycle and before this slide, Maya, I think we missed one slide, slide number 4. Yeah, this the good news is okay. The good news is that the Ministry of Home Affairs issued a presidential regulation number 797 to 2018 concerning requirement and procedure for civil administration, and the Minister of Home Affairs regulation number 108 2019 concerning regulation for implementing the presidential regulation. Those two regulations was encourage the government to make an innovation in the process of registration through the online services. Okay, the next slide. Okay, and the impact of these two regulation was there is a online application that was provided by Ministry of Home Affairs, which enables the Indonesian citizen to adjust to administrative requirement and facilitation without we have to face directly to the officer, which carried on the stigma, especially for those indigenous people. But those two regulations still need some time the offline requirement to be sent into the Dukcapil office. Okay, the next slide, Maya. Okay, this facility is highly needed by penghayat kepercayaan who want to change their identity card, especially those who have not affiliated with any penghayat kepercayaan association.
Sorry, Affaf,
because theoretically penghayat kepercayaan are classified into three categories. The first is Mujahidah murni or pure adherence of indigenous faith.
Miss Affaf, your voice is not clear yet.
Yeah.
Your voice is not
Okay.
clear.
Okay, murni, and then penghayat beragama who claim the card. And then the last one is unaffiliated penghayat who are not formally affiliated with any penghayat kepercayaan association, but still practicing indigenous belief personally. This one, the last classification is problematic since they can't meet the requirement from the Ministry of Home Affairs to attach recommendation letter from Penghayat Kepercayaan Association or Paguyuban. Okay, the next slide, Mbak Radit. Okay, this research, we interviewed some respondents which classified into three. The first is from the Department of Population and Civil Administrative of Yogyakarta Province, and then from Penghayat Kepercayaan Organization, and then from Penghayat Kepercayaan as main subject of this online civil administrative service. Okay, Mbak Radit, can we move to the next slide, please? As the secondary sources, we also do a content analysis of the relevant literature, documents, and news, and also videos from YouTube, which mention about the procedure of online civil administration that was published by Satu Nama. Okay, can we move to the next slide? Thus, research was then analyzed through the social inclusion theory, which at least three measurements. The first is the improvement of access to public services and social acceptance. The second is to fulfill the human right of penghayat kepercayaan, and the third is formulated through the interference of advocacy, whose main goal are social acceptance, public services, and policies that can be implemented flexibly by taking condition of a given society into account. Okay, can we move to the next? Okay, the implementation of this regulation, we can find around the Yogyakarta province from Bantul, and then Sleman, Kulon Progo, of the Bantul Regency, applicants must come directly to the District Capil office because changing the religion column in the ID card is a serious affair that cannot be processed at the sub-district level. So they have to go to the District Capil in the Regency, the central District Capil. And the main purpose here is to avoid data errors in their ID card. However, the unaffiliated penghayat kepercayaan still cannot access this service because it requires a recommendation from the leader of official penghayat kepercayaan association, as I mentioned before. And the next slide, please. Okay, in the case of Kulon Progo, online civil administrative services can be accessed through three online apps: Siap Desa, Lakonku, and via WhatsApp. Sorry. Okay. However, as we know that the internet was not difficult to access in several region or several location. some penghayat kepercayaan still have difficulties to access this application, and they prefer to use WhatsApp, which means they still have to send the original document into the civil registry office. Okay, the next slide. The next slide, please. Okay. In the case of Yogyakarta and also in Sleman and before, I think. Okay. I'm so sorry, my internet connection is unstable, so it will a problem. Okay, it will be a problem. Okay, in the case of Yogyakarta and also Sleman and Gunung Kidul Regency, the main problems is to attach a recommendation letter from authorized penghayat kepercayaan association, which include in the form of F169, F170, and F171. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, here the problem based on the indicator of social inclusion. The implementation of online service administrative services can be mapped out in the three main categories: social acceptance, the fulfilling of rights, and the change of policy. As an instrument for civil administrative registration, this online service must be inclusive for all citizens, which is stated that this service is provided for anyone who need it without discrimination based on religious identity. Okay, the next. Okay. However, the main problems revolve around penghayat kepercayaan is the reluctance to change their religion column on their identity card with kepercayaan to the existing negative stigma against them. So as I mentioned before, that some district chapel officer questioned them why they moved to the kepercayaan, and some of them was asked to recite some prayer in Islam or in other religions, and if they still can't recite it well, they will ask, you are ready, you are still remember how to pray in Islam or in Christian, why do you move into the penghayat kepercayaan, something like that. That was a stigma. Okay, the next slide. For instance, some penghayat kepercayaan also still grapple with difficulties when they change their residential document, such as their childbirth certificate, or some of them was registered as penghayat kepercayaan, but then in their identity card, the officer still issued the identity card with Islam in their ID column, in the religion column. Yeah, as I mentioned before, a question with the stigma. So the most difficulties that they face is the stigma that was still exists in the not only district chapel officer but also in the society as well. Okay, the next. Okay, the strategies, several effort has been made to overcome the problems that penghayat kepercayaan face concerning the change of the religion column and an ID card, such as the socialization from MLKI and also leader of penghayat kepercayaan communities, and then they also provide to give them a recommendation letter that issued by MLKI, not by the Paguyuban or Penghayat Kepercayaan Association.
Ms. Affaf, your time is 2 minutes left.
Okay, can we jump up into the conclusion, Mbak? Okay. Online civil administrative services initiated by the government might be significant as the instrument of social inclusion. In the term of first measure of social inclusion, social acceptance, this online service enable to eliminate negative stigma dan penghayat kepercayaan because they do not have to face the officer directly. It is also important to note that having legal civil administrative document would enable them to access their civil and political right without discrimination. However, it still needs improvement in many aspects, like the accessible of the online apps and the socialization, and also to educate the district chapel officer to uh, to erase the stigma and discrimination toward the penghayat kepercayaan. I think that's all that I can present right now. I'm so honored and thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Affaf Mujahidah. It's really interesting. If we talk about the problematic issues behind the implementations of the registering the penghayat kepercayaan, as it is also a mandate from presidential regulations, which is derived from Constitutional Court number 197 of 2016. So our last presenter is Mr. Hamid Istakhori is not yet in the room. So I would like to open the questions and answer sessions. So to those who wants to ask, please write down your questions in the chat box or raise your hand. And for the other panelists, you can also ask the question to other panelists. Is there any questions? If not, maybe I will ask the panelists. Okay, still know the questions. I would like to ask the questions to Ms. Affaf Mujahidah. As long as I know, the presidential regulations and procedure for civil administrations of Ministry of Home Affairs only regulates the registrations of childbirth and also the marriage registrations for indigenous for penghayat kepercayaan. So there's no other statement in that regulation that in those regulations that the central government and the local government must be register the penghayat kepercayaan. So what do you think about the umbrella law umbrella for legal basis or law umbrella for this registering applications, Ms. Affaf? Ms. Affaf, you can directly answer my question.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, there's also a problem that in some region, in all the region in Yogyakarta province, the interpretation of this online application is very varied based on the district chapel officer itself. So, for example, in Bantul and Kulon Progo, they have more than one online application that it confusing the penghayat kepercayaan and also other religious adherence in order to change the ID column. And also the change of the religion column was not mentioned in this application. And also, I think, the main problem is still the negative stigma that was faced by penghayat kepercayaan itself. But I think it's potential to be improved as a service that can be an inclusive service, not only for penghayat kepercayaan but also from the other religions adherents. I think.
Thank you, Ms. Affaf Mujahidah. Any other questions from panelists or participants? Okay, still no. By the way, Ms. Kristina Viri, I also interested in your presentations about the prosecutor regulations. So what do you think about the recommendations for this prosecutor regulation? Since in your presentation you said that the prosecutor regulation is still not in line with the Constitutional Court decision number 97 of 2016, Ms. Kristina Viri.
Okay, thank you so much for the question, Miss Elsa. First of all, I would like to highlight that the existence of Bakor Pakem is related to the regulation of kejaksaan or undang-undang kejaksaan, because undang-undang kejaksaan give authority to Bakor Pakem. So the prosecutor regulation is implement the undang-undang kejaksaan. So according to me, the important must we do is doing the judicial review for undang-undang kejaksaan to eliminate the authority of kejaksaan as a Bakor Pakem. So that's why after that the indigenous religion and also the minority religion not monitored or disbanded again in this institution. So the first action is doing the judicial review for undang-undang kejaksaan, and after that if it approved, so we can move to many regulation which published by the prosecutors about published by by Bakor Pakem. I think that's my answer, Mbak Elsa. Thank you.
Yes, it's really interesting. Yeah. But do you have any evidence in the grassroots or at local level that maybe there's innovations of this regulation, that there's maybe a Bakor Pakem that's not follow the prosecutor regulations? What about that, Mbak Kristina Viri?
I think I don't have yet the example in the grassroots level, but why I doing this research, I think because some of the indigenous religion in Kulon Progo, when I met them 2 months ago, mentioned about this regulation, because they already there is already an impact about that, because some of them invited to the prosecutor's office and asked about their activity, etc. So that's why I think it will potentially become a problem to the indigenous religion in the future. Mbak Elsa.
Clear enough. So the Bakor Pakem only conducts supervisions to indigenous religion, or any other statement in that regulation, such as maybe giving the funding or etc.?
In that regulation is only mentioned the structure of Bakor Pakem. However, the previous regulation is regulate more detail about this institution. For example, the authority, and then the activity about the indigenous religion, and also the minority religion, which monitored by the Bakor Pakem, etc. So I think the authority is still strong. Yeah, the authority of Bakor Pakem is still strong. Not only supervise the indigenous religion, but also they have authority to monitor, control, and also disband it if they see the organization or the community is doing the blasphemy, for example. So I think it will be potentially become a problem, the existence of this institution. Mbak Elsa.
Yes, clear enough. Any other questions maybe from teman-teman pusat? Okay, if not, Ms. Affaf Mujahidah, I would like to give you a questions about the applications to registering the database of penghayat kepercayaan. Since as long as I know, there's still a problem in the central government to implement or input the state the wording of penghayat kepercayaan terhadap Tuhan Yang Maha Esa in the system of in the application system. And also it's interesting to know that some of the penghayat kepercayaan is choose to not register as penghayat kepercayaan. They choose to be one of the religions right now. Gitu. What do you think about that? Apa?
Okay, thank you so much for the question, Elsa. But I think that Ministry of Home Affairs also already provide an application for this online surveillance administrative services. But however, this not widely used by district chapel in the region, since I think they still face the difficulties to use the application because I think that they don't have an access to as admin to access the data that collected by the penghayat kepercayaan. And also, yeah, we know that the ID card for penghayat kepercayaan was different from those who choose to be adherents of one of legal religions in Indonesia. And I think it for the first it's not inclusive since the differentiation of the ID card for religions and also for penghayat kepercayaan. I don't have how to say that. I'm sorry. I don't think that the KTP or the ID card that provide for penghayat kepercayaan is inclusive at the first place, and we can only hope that in the next the penghayat kepercayaan was legalized as one of the religions that acknowledged by the state. So the penghayat kepercayaan has access to their political right and civil right, not only for documenting their birth certificate, for instance, but also to be like to be a civil officer in the government department or institution, I think like that. Elsa.
Yeah, it's interesting. For next question is Dukcapil still need approval from like a specific requirements from the changing identity card from for penghayat kepercayaan, like approval from religious leaders or village head? What do you think? What do you know about that?
It's not mentioned in the circular letter that issued by the Ministry of Home Affairs, but in the fact that religious organization, for example, in the case of the judicial review of that we know that some of religious organization protested the government why they didn't include in the discussion since I think that they still have kind of post-war syndrome that they want to be included in every discussion that regarding on the fate of religious adherence in Indonesia, but I don't think that this one is appropriate since penghayat kepercayaan have the right to choose whether they want to be religion's adherents or to be penghayat kepercayaan itself. I think like that, Bu Elsa.
Yeah, thank you, Mbak Affaf. Is there any questions? Maybe Mbak Viri to Mbak Affaf, teman-teman pusat para Madinah. Is there any questions?
Hi, Mbak. Maybe I'd like to ask questions to the panelists, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mbak Kristina Viri and Mbak Affaf for the presentations. I think it was a very informative presentations in regards to how exactly the state recognitions to the indigenous communities impact them, right? Because I think some would argue that it is important to ensure that they are legally recognized. But I think from the presentations of Mbak Affaf, especially, there are still some degrees in the realm of implementations, right? Let's see with the comparisons between several areas in Yogyakarta, for example. But I would like to ask some comments, first maybe to Mbak Affaf. How do you think the advocacy to ensure that the rights of indigenous communities can be improved? Because now I think in terms of legal recognitions, maybe some would argue that there are progress, right? But the implementation itself still highly depends upon the officers or maybe the frontline service providers that is going to provide that particular services, like the officers in Dukcapil, for example. And how would you, if you could give some sort of recommendations on how exactly the implementations of such regulations can be better carried out. And I think the second questions would be for Mbak Kristina Viri. You mentioned that the reasons why the new prosecutors regulations would be discriminative is exactly because they're gonna involve more actors such as the FKUB, right? I think you mentioned that in your presentations. Do you think these regulations is part of the trend of shrinking public space or shrinking civil space in Indonesia? Because I think now we see more and more trends, right? Some ministries, for example, is able to disband certain organizations just by using peraturan bersama menteri, for example. Well, it is clearly stated in your presentations that in the theory of hierarchy of law, obviously, peraturan bersama menteri cannot trample or cannot be regarded as higher than constitutions, for example, that guarantee our freedom of religions and such. And how would you respond that? Do you think this regulation is part of such trend in that it actually shrinks the spaces? Because now even the FKUB that is supposed to facilitate, for example, the Interreligious Harmony Forum becomes sort of tools by the governments to limit and curtail the rights of people on the ground. So I think I would like to see and hear your comments on that. I think that's all, Mbak Elsa. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Raditya. Please, Mbak Affaf, you can answer first. Oh, Mbak Affaf still in the waiting room. Maybe Mbak Kristina Viri.
Thank you, Mbak Raditya, for your good question, and it's very difficult to answer, yeah. But for me, I think, I agree with your opinion that I think this regulation is following the recent trend, yeah, for a government to maybe make like I think it potentially close the civic space, more civic space for especially for indigenous religion, including the FKUB in Bakor Pakem. It means that only FKUB is not a government official, yeah. And then I think, yeah, there is two potential. I think the first one is it make the Bakor Pakem stronger, or the second one is it's only government only take the legitimacy for including the FKUB in this Bakor Pakem. So it seen as government more participative because it includes the FKUB in this forum, I think. But I'm still concerned with the history of Bakor Pakem.
Mbak Kristina Viri.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. To monitor and control the indigenous religion and also the minority religion. So I think that's the important. So I think including the FKUB or not in this Bakor Pakem, the important thing is this Bakor Pakem is still exists in Indonesia, and it will be a problem. I think that's my answer, Mbak Elsa. Thank you.
Thank you, Mbak Kristina Viri. Next, maybe Mbak Affaf. Oh, Mbak Affaf Mujahidah. Halo, Mbak Affaf. Okay, maybe Mbak Affaf still has a problem in the connections. So Mbak Raditya, is it okay if your questions will be answered later after Mbak Affaf? Okay,
sure,
thank you.
fine.
Okay, is there any questions here? Any other question? Okay. Mbak Affaf, are you still with us? Okay, I think she has a problem in the connections. So is there any questions from this panel, participants and panelists? So if there are not, I have to close these panels. Is there any burning issues? The last questions from me. Okay, thank you. Mbak Raditya, sorry. Okay, the network is unstable. I can unmute. Okay, maybe Mbak Affaf can answer via WhatsApp to you ya, Mbak Raditya ya.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So that's all for this presentation, for this panel. I would like, you can also watch other panels through Satu Nama, Pusat Mara Madinah, Komnas Perempuan, and CRCS YouTube channel. I would like also to remind all the panelists and also the participants to join plenary sessions today at 3 p.m. if I'm not mistaken, Mbak Raditya ya? Yeah, 3 p.m. In that plenary session, the chosen articles or paper will be published at Religio Journal will be published at that event. So that's all. Thank you for all the panelists and participants here. Wabillahi taufik wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Rahayu.
Thank you so much. Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you Mbak Kristina, Mbak Raditya.
Sampai
Terima
ketemu
kasih
lagi.
Mbak
Sampai
Elsa.
jumpa. Iya, terima kasih.